Richard Carlton. Take a six-pack of journalists, buy an atlas, add a little alliteration, end every sentence with a question, and you'd think you'd have a top-rating Sunday night, 7:30 current affairs show.
If ever there was easy game in the satire shooting gallery, it's the native Australian television personality. And needless to say, they relish the attention.
It's wonderful. I'm all in favour of it. It's tremendous. I mean, it's not necessarily original. I mean, it's as hard to be original in comedy, I think, as it is in current affairs.
How's that? You missed a bet, I caught you out, how's that?
Mark Mitchell in Gibbo mode. If you listen to the original, this sort of thing is actually good for your health.
Well, I didn't realise I was so fat. I mean, that's why I lost a bit of weight as soon as I saw Mark Mitchell do that, so I've got to pull off some kilos. But, no, seriously, I loved it. I mean, I like to send people up, and therefore, if you do that, you have to be prepared to be sent up too, and I think Mark does a wonderful Gibbo.
The insult potential of the parodies is enormous, but the victims seem to exhibit pleasure as opposed to pain.
You know what I mean.
I've been around for a while, so I'm aware that I have a pock-marked face. I'm aware that I'm skinny. I'm aware that I have a deep voice. I'm aware that I smoke cigarettes on television and shouldn't. You know, I'm aware of all that stuff, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me.
The man often seen climbing into Law's trousers is Steve Vizard.
You see, I'm centering myself as all great actors did, Larry. It's an important thing to do. I center myself and then I learn the lines.
International lawyer, turned comedy writer, turned executive producer. He's the driving force behind Fast Forward, and perhaps its most wicked satirist.
We could just bring this whole country to its knees. The meaning of life is all very well, but won't help you when you're confronted by a plane load of drunken footballers doing disgusting things with complimentary headphones.
On most days of the week at Channel 7, you'll find Vizard being glued, gummed and skull-capped into the shape of other people. Sometimes he's the multi-millionaire television personality Bill Cosby.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm only going to ask the question once. Who tarred and feathered Grandpa Huxtable?
Sometimes he's a gangling Peter Garrett. He doesn't so much slip into character as slam into it head first.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Fair enough. As long as he wasn't trespassing, it's free country. However, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. We had to ask, was Humpty Dumpty out of his mind on drugs?
And the character he slips into with most relish is the extraordinary Darren Hinch.
Somebody can be so sincere on so many issues so regularly, like every night, is just beyond belief. I mean, I don't know how you could sleep. Imagine going home and just thinking to yourself, you know, shame, just being so sincere all the time, you know. Imagine if you broke a piece of crockery in the house. Shame, Jackie, shame. Shame, Vizard, shame. Shame, 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 Darren. This is the real one. This is the real McCoy.
How do you react when Darren Hunt comes on?
It's a bit unnerving the first time you see you see your mannerisms, you know, exaggerated. I suppose like slightly. It's like somebody. And of course now, as the time goes by, he has to get worse, right? Yeah. Has to go further and further over the top.
Later in the show, I'll be exposing some more of these anarchistic, irresponsible propaganda that's disguised as this so-called nursery rhymes. You owe to your children, your children's children, your children's children's children to be watching. I don't hunch, and I'm sticking my thumb into pies and pulling out plums, and what a good boy am I.
If the Hinch parody is close to the bone, then what happened to Channel 9's George Denikian was even closer.
Bear with me while I go through the motions that a powerful sexual animal such as myself must necessarily go through. When George shaved off his moustache, that was terrific stuff, because it occurred to me that he didn't leave himself anywhere to go. George Denikian, Socceroo skipper Charlie Yankos and defender Mihmet Dorovic have been recruited to South Melbourne. Kero Chapkavi, who led Falkland promotion from the Victorian League, will replace John Colignelli. And tell us today, Ivan Lendl defeated Michael Cheng.
I enjoyed it. I think that's what it was, because for me it was a case of You have finally arrived. And Graham Kennedy said the same thing. He put me aside, he said, you know, that's an awfully big pat on the back. You know, because they only pick a few people. And, you know, nationally. And I thought about it and I went, yeah, it really is.
Can satire ever become too hurtful? Can you go too far, do you think?
There have been people who I think have been a bit hurt or upset. I mean, that's one of the pros and cons. You weigh something up. You say, that's the cost of doing it, but what's the benefit of doing it? And the benefit is that people will laugh, but there must be boundaries of good taste. I don't know what they are. You can't specify them in advance, and we're exploring that. Sometimes we must overstep it. Yeah. And in fact, it's only by exploring where that boundary is on every occasion that you find it.
Absolutely, Brent.
The young Sean Connery.
The point Barry Humphries is making is that comedy is only as good as the inspiration of the comedians themselves.
Hang on. Hey, Merv Big O, I'm not going in my own commercials. No. And remember, no one goes lower than Merv on Price.
Coming up next, the kings and queens of Australian comedy.
You, tall, dark, and Slytherin, what's a girl to do? You use your nimbus to sweep me off my feet, but now without you by my side I feel incomplete. Slytherin and Gryffindor parted by the Sorting Hat, from rival houses, boy, but we don't have to be like that.
The secret of making successful television comedy is simple. Take a small group of highly intelligent people and work 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, under incredible pressure.
It's dog eat dog out there on telly.
Oh, dog eat dog for you, maybe, but I'm cooperating. I'm pulling my weight. I'm not just a passenger like some of us.
Leave no time for a second take, and above all, always be funny all the time.
Something top secret of the utmost confidentiality to the Third Reich is going on. So secret that even if you gave me 4 crates of Moe and a Freddo frog, I couldn't tell you still. I know nothing. I hear nothing.
We have to be everything. Sculptors, we've got to be composers, acrobats, trapeze artists.
Remember that feeling of euphoria that you must have had when you were successful, you first knocked off 60 Minutes. Is that feeling still there to some extent, even now?
Yes, we feel even more euphoric that we're doing well now because we've been doing for so long.
I used to panic all the time. I really did. Last year...
No one's ever assassinated a comedian.
I used to worry about it. I used to think 60 Minutes are going to shoot me. I used to worry.
Oh, them.
You know, when our cat went missing, I really thought 60 Minutes had taken it.
You've ransomed. Get off the air or you never see.
I really, you know, I mean, I intellectually knew that was silly. But on the other hand...
a photograph of the gun on the cat's head saying, get off the air or we'll shoot this cat.
Can you always judge what's going to be funny?
Look, no one can do that. If anyone could do that, they'd be Ian McFadden or Barry Humphries.
Does the pressure have on a performer's psyche? Are they all obsessive and neurotic? And more to the point, what kind of person has the energy and ideas to make millions of people laugh week in, week out? Are they hysterically funny 24 hours a day? Not really, but they'd like to be.
We're a bit like alcoholics who...
And spends most of her time at home, helping to write all sorts of characters. Joe Facine, the baby, the bed scenes, Sharon and Darren, and of course, Kylie Mole.
Well, maybe James Rank could be in love with Kylie. No one's been in love with Kylie yet.
Well, that's very unlikely, you see, because she's a real rag.
I don't know.
But,
I think she's sort of attractive in her own sweet way.
You've also done some acting in that, haven't you?
Well, I was in Return to Eden.
What's the story about?
Well, it's about this tennis player and a beautiful woman and a crocodile.
Which one did you play?
Tennis player.
Oh, right. James?
Yes?
Just before you go, can I ask you for an autograph?
Yep, sure, no worries.
Oh, not yours, David's.
And then around.
That's the executive producer there.
Ian McFadgen is a former criminology student and social worker.
That's gone now.
Excuse me, I have no lines, Ian?
No.
I have no lines.
You have no lines. Well, you're a cat, you know.
No, that's fabulous.
This whole sketch is done
The
in dog
dogs get all the lines.
Well, the whole sketch, so, Mark, I think is...
So does social work equip a man to be a famous comedian?
As I understand it, when pop stars walk down the street, girls look out of windows and cars and go, "Ah!" And when I walk, girls look at them,
Yeah, Glenn Robbins got a complex about that. He kept checking his fly.
I know, you can look at yourself, have I got toilet paper on my shoe or something? They look at you and they laugh, as if you're an inherently funny person.
Glenn Robbins, usually to be found inside Uncle Arthur, was once a teacher.
Why do you think Uncle Arthur is so successful, so popular?
Because everyone has an Uncle Arthur. I mean, when I started out doing Uncle Arthur, I used to, it's just doing my dad. I impersonate my father, basically.
I thought they'd bury me up to my neck in sand, didn't they? And I said, that's fine. And I thought, oh, I'll give the kids a bit of a wave, won't I?
It was funny, I used to do the wave just to help me get into character. And because that's how Dad used to wave, because that's a kiddie's wave. That's how little kids wave. So he would wave to us like that when we were, 19, 20.
It'll never work.
Performers who have most changed the new comedy are the women. Like Marianne Faye, they all write as well as perform. Magda Zabansky and Mark Downey sprang from university. Jean Kitson was a teacher, and Wendy Harmer was a journalist.
I'm the first female to host a nighttime variety show, or certainly a variety show of any kind. So that's really a brand new role model, and there was a great deal of resistance to the idea, a great deal.
From men?
From a lot of people who go unmentioned, but really just didn't believe that I'd be able to carry it off at all and wouldn't be able to bring the kind of air of authority that the job required. Now, what do you do for a job?
I work for a big oil company.
My goodness me, I can tell that. You look like a shaker and a mover.
I know there's been some fantastic comedians in the past, Australian comedians, but they haven't really had a proper vehicle on television to show their talents. They've always been supporting the male comedians. They've always been there to provide a feed line for the punchline or be the butt of a joke or something like that.
Would you like something to bite on?
Not at the moment. I had a biscuit from a tea.
Are comedians becoming respectable, do you think?
I don't know. You become respectable when you get on TV. That's what I've found.
The most popular outcasts ever. And respectability, well, there is nowhere more respectable than Melbourne. After the break, we discover why Melbourne is the home of Australian comedy.